All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Olney from Boonville PD in New York. I'm really excited to have a conversation with him today. He has a vast experience in law enforcement and wellness. So, welcome to the show, Chief Olney. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Paige. I'm glad that we made contact.
Yeah, me too. Can you tell me, I don't know if I asked you this offline, how many years do you have in this profession?
A week ago today started year 39 for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you give a little bit of background? How did you get started? Maybe a little bit about your experience over the last 39 years.
Sure. I was 21 and 3 months. And I'm sorry, 2 months, 21 and 2 months. And I got a provisional job working for the local sheriff's office in the jail. Um, I worked there for about 10 months, hated it. I loved, looking back, I love the experiences I got, and it taught me very quickly how to talk to people and how to deal with people. Um, Most of those people didn't know how to function in society. That's why they were there, and it taught me how to talk to people, which is a huge part of this line of work. Um, I did see a lot of my coworkers at that time that had been there for a long time, 20, 25 years, and they were not had known a good road. And I said if I'm still there at my 1 year anniversary, I was going to go find a new job. Um, I figured if I was there 20 years, I'd be a chain smoking alcoholic by the time I got done, and it was just wasn't for me. So after one particularly rough day in the jail, I walked next door to the law enforcement building and basically knocked on the first door I came to, and said, "Hi, I'm Dave Olney. I want a job." And they just happened to have like five people transfer to another agency like that week. And they said, "Yeah, we're looking for people. Who are you?" And I told them I work next door in the jail and wanted to be a police officer. And a couple of weeks later, I was working there. I worked for 18 months before I went to the academy. Back then, they basically taught you how to shoot, taught you a little bit about penal law and use of force, and said, "Don't hurt anybody and go get them." And 18 months later, I went to the academy. And, I stayed at the sheriff's office until I went to the state police. Almost 7 years later, I went to the New York State Police, where within the state police, I was on patrol for 20 years. And then I moved up to sergeant. I purposely didn't go anywhere for 20 years because I loved what I was doing. I loved being a street cop. And then something inside of me at 18, 19 years was like, you complain about a lot of stuff. Maybe it's time you start doing something about it. So that's when I took the sergeant's test. I made sergeant right around my 20-year anniversary. I accepted a spot in our division headquarters in Albany in our planning and research office. And while in planning and research, I was involved in some wonderful projects. I was there for 4 years. I was heavily involved in getting Narcan on the street.
Wow.
Um, I was heavily involved in the drone program for the state police. We went from nothing to one of the biggest programs in the country, and we've saved countless lives in both our officers and of the public with the drones. Um, and then after about 4 years there, I really, really missed patrol and being back home. And I was commuting 96 miles one way every day to go to work. So I went back home, and for the rest of my career with the state police, I was a sergeant and a station commander of a couple different stations. And I retired from the station that I started at as a trooper, as the station commander. And I retired January 12th, and I started in Boonville January 13th. So this is my third agency. It was a huge jump going from one of the bigger agencies in the country. It's about the size of Los Angeles Police Department, around 5,000 members, with a huge support system and a huge infrastructure, to going to Boonville Village Police Department, which is a very, very small agency and um, not such a big infrastructure. And there's nobody, back with the state police. If I needed something or want to do something, I sent an email and it got done, because there were a million people over me that were, um, turning the wrenches and getting things done. And here there's nobody, so you got to figure it out. So
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing your background. There are a few things you said that I really appreciated. And, I think that we all can relate to moments in life where you look around and you ask yourself, is this what I want for my life? And you look at the people around you. And I've definitely had that before where, I looked around and I said the same thing. Like, if I stay here, I'm going to end up like everyone else around me and they're all making poor decisions. And that's not what I want with my life. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure that out, but I'm so glad that you had that realization where you're like, man, if I stay here, I'm going to be an alcoholic or I'm going to be making poor decisions. And so I want to change my environment. And I think it's so important to understand, is your environment healthy or is it unhealthy? And you also said that you um, realize that you were complaining about things, and sometimes the only way to change things is to do it yourself. And so having that opportunity of like, you know what? I'm gonna promote and I'm gonna try to make a difference myself. And so I appreciated that. I wanted to ask you a few things. One, do you recommend having various roles, maybe even if it's not exactly what you want in that moment so that you can have more perspective and you can have empathy for not just the position, but the people that you're working with? Because that's what I heard when you said, hey, like I didn't necessarily want this, but it gave me the opportunity to communicate with people and to empathize with people. Do you think that you would recommend that?
Absolutely. I can't stress enough. I mean, any any place I've ever worked, I wanted to know how the street sweeper's job was and how they did what they did right up until the boss running the show. It's really important to have that perspective. When I worked in Albany, one of my supervisors there, he was my major. He was the big boss of my office, and he told me everybody sees the world through a different lens,
Yeah.
and it's um it's really important that you try to look through other people's lens. You'll never see what they see, but it's really good to get that perspective. And what better way to get that perspective than um, putting yourself in that person's shoes the best you can. I didn't like the jail. I don't. I was going to go to school. I was enrolled in a very good school for mechanical or electrical engineering just out in high school. And my summer after I graduated high school, I was talking with some friends and we were talking about what we are going to be doing. It's like, geez, I don't like being indoors for work and I don't like math. And what am I doing? And so I decided to be a police officer. And the jail corrections, there were some wonderful, wonderful people in there. There still are just incredible people that do that job. And that was for them. And I saw some people that um, probably weren't where they should have been. And it made me think that, this isn't where I want to be and I'm not going to be happy here. And I didn't want to stay there so long that I was out of options. So
Yeah.
uh, I went down a different path.
I love that. And I agree with you. I think that it's important to try to understand why people act the way they do, try to understand what they're going through on a day to day, because it gives you more, it's not just empathy. I think that it just gives you more respect for other people and the challenges of their roles or their situation. I think you could relate this not only internally, I think that you can relate this, within the community too. How can you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to understand their situation and what they're going through so you can have more perspective and more respect for the situation. I think so often we only see things from our point of view, and that can lead to challenges, right? Because then it's like a judgment of like, well, why are you doing this? Or why did you, say this? Or why did you react in that way? And I think if you can take a step back sometimes and maybe not agree with it, but if you can say, I can understand, what you're going through and why you made that decision, then it just helps with that team mentality of coming together and trying to support each other as much as you can. I know you said that you came from a really large organization and now you're in a smaller organization, and there's some unique benefits and challenges to both. From the perspective of wellness, what differences did you see between a really large org versus a small org?
Boy, how much time do we have? There's There's huge
Mm.
differences, and some are good and some are bad. There's positives. Like I said, with the state police, huge infrastructure. If they implemented something, they did it full throttle. It was across the board, and everybody had to participate, whether you liked it or not. That said, it was so easy to fall through the cracks.
Mm.
A lot of the trainings were online, and I'd see people do a 45-minute training in a minute and a half. So what value are they getting out of that? And a lot of that, I think, was checking boxes that we had to check. And I'm not saying everybody did that. And there were times that you you had to take the same trainings every year to make sure we checked a box. And about the third year, you're like, how do I zip through this thing? So, because I got 9,000 other things to do.
Sure.
So sometimes the buy-in in a bigger organization, it's hard. The message gets lost on the way down. So if a superintendent or a colonel um, has an idea and he wants to implement some training or a plan or a wellness program, it's it's extremely well intended. And I found out working in planning and research, you're very close to the executive team at the state police, and how much they cared and how much they wanted things done right in the field, and they wanted to treat their people right. But by the time it filtered down through the funnel and came out the other end, it was, oh, we got to do this stupid training and let's just get this done. Or the people that were the practitioners of it in the field were not, they didn't buy into it. They didn't get that message. And it was just one more thing they had to do. And that when it got to the field, it was so watered down that the value wasn't there that was intended to be there. So in a small organization like this, it's me and my crew, and it's 100% one-on-one. If there's something we need to do, then we do it. If it's also good that you do have that one-on-one, so you get to know your people. And one thing I learned a long time ago, and I wish somebody had done to me, I wish somebody had taken me and put their hands on my shoulders and looked me in the eye and said, "What are you doing?"
Mm.
And in here you can see that, you can notice those changes in people that maybe you can help them before it's too late.
Yeah. What do you think is the solve for larger organizations that maybe can't do that? And you said people are falling through the cracks and you don't feel like there's someone who's looking out for you. Do you think that there's a way to change that, or is it just the symptom of being so big that it's hard to create that culture and that mentality of checking in with each other?
I honestly don't have the answer to that. There's probably some good things you could try to implement, and if there's 10 ideas to implement, maybe one's going to work. And
Yeah.
with an agency that size, um, even trying to implement that is going to get lost as it goes down the funnel. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Um, I'd like to think that New York State Police is split up into troops. So it's a big state, huge geographical area, and each state is divided up into troops. Or I'm sorry, each um, region of the state is divided up into troops. There's 10, 11 troops now. Each troop is divided up into zones, and then within the zones, there's stations. So if you're a station commander like I was, it's like you're the chief of between a 15 to 30 person police department, but you still have people over you that are running the administration. Um, so how do you get that message from the top down through? You're always going to have people that don't buy into whatever it is. You're going to have people that are skeptical of whatever the initiative is. You see it all the time. So I don't know the answer to getting that buy-in. Maybe it's better communication.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more stress on making sure the message gets out there, and having someone from the upper levels take ownership of it, and maybe have those people go out to the field to make sure, not to be riding herd over anybody, but to make sure that the people that are going to be implementing it understand the reason and the focus of the message.
Mm. Yeah, understanding the why behind
Yeah,
what you guys are
yeah,
doing.
the wise piece.
Yeah, I understand. I wanted to ask you, you've been in this career a really long time. How did it impact your personal wellness, physically, mentally? Did you see anything that was a direct impact from this career?
Geez. Well, in 40 years, you can imagine. They say that your average person sees just a handful of very traumatic things throughout their course of their lifetime. And in this line of work, if you're out on the front lines, you could see it daily, weekly, depending on how big your agency is or the area you serve. I couldn't even begin to tell you some of the horrors that I've seen and some of the good stuff I've seen. I was one of the first responders here for 9/11 in New York City. I led this troop to New York City on September 11th. I spent 6 weeks down there. I spent 4 weeks in New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina right after the hurricane hit. And we were in the trenches, and that's just two of 1,000, things. My first day of my secondary field training with the state police, our first call in the morning was a gentleman, I use that term wrongly, I guess, a person who had just murdered his two children and killed himself. And things like that. I carried that with me the wrong way for a couple of years. And talking to a friend whose brother had committed suicide, and we got talking about trauma and things like that. And that's when I realized it was how therapeutic it was to talk to somebody. But back then, you sucked it up, rubbed dirt on it and moved on. And um, I learned the extreme value of talking to people and getting it out there. So I'm very careful now with my people and with my troopers. I look at them like they're my family. I don't think I'm that old, but I look at them like they're my children in a lot of ways, and I love them like they're my children. And I talk about troopers, but I'm here and also the police department. And you really have to watch how people react to things and make sure to check into them, make sure they're okay and stuff like that. So there's been so many things in this line of work that for a long time is, and I know a lot of police officers do this, you just stuff it down and move on.
Yeah.
um I throughout my career, I you get so wrapped up in taking care of everybody else and taking care of um the things you have to take care of all day long, and you kind of figure yourself isn't top priority, and I've seen this happen a lot. I know for sure I did it. You mentioned before, my own health. It was 2020. Um, I started taking guitar lessons during COVID, and I was taking a lesson, and the guy who was a very good friend of mine now that I was taking lessons from, I was sitting there one day with him, and he said, "What is going on with you? You look like crap." And I
Mm.
was like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Tell me how you're feeling. What's going on?" And I described it to him, and he said, "You have diabetes." I said, "No, I don't. That's for old fat people." He goes, "Go look in the mirror." And I'm like, "Jerk," you know?
Yeah.
So he said, "Go see your doctor." I said, "I don't have a doctor. It's been 10 years since I went to a doctor." And one of the dumbest things ever. So I asked him who his doctor was. He told me, and it turns out it was one of my neighbors who I've known forever, but I didn't think he was a GP. Called him up, um, made an appointment, and it was like 13 or 14 days before I could get in. And funny thing, the day of my appointment was my birthday, and my guitar lesson. As I left my guitar lesson, he scared the hell out of me, and I quit sugar cold turkey on that day. So it was almost 13 days before I went to my doctor. And I don't know if you know anything about blood sugar numbers or A1C numbers. Do you know anything about those?
A little bit, but I'm definitely not an expert.
Yeah, my your blood sugar shouldn't get over 120 or so under normal conditions, and your A1C at about a 5.7 is pre-diabetic, and anything over a 5.7 is diabetic. And those numbers, just 5.8, 5.9, that 1 point is a big deal. So having not consumed any sugar for 12 or 13 days, I went to my doctor, and my blood sugar was 386 or something like that, and my A1C was 13.8. And
Wow.
my doctor looked at me and said, "I don't know how you literally haven't had a stroke. You should not be alive right now."
Wow.
So that scared me, and um, I quit sugar. So on basically on my birthday in 2020, I quit anything with sugar. Um, I haven't eaten candy or drank soda or anything. Just completely quit that. Um, and I ended up losing maybe 30, 35 pounds. And then it crept back on because I was taking medicine and trying to maintain everything. And within 6 or 8 months, I got my blood sugar down where it needed to be, and I got my A1C down where it needed to be. But I was taking metformin and things like that. Um, Fast forward to 2.5 years ago when I went back in, and my doctor said, "Dave, you are right back where you started from." He said, "Your numbers are okay, but your weight's up there, your blood pressure's up there. You gotta do something." He said, "I'm gonna have to put you on X, Y, Z because you're gonna die, and you have grandchildren, and you know you want to see your family and spend time with your wife." He says, "You got to straighten yourself out."
Yeah.
Um, that was my youngest son's birthday when I was at the doctor. And I left there. I said, give me 6 months. And I came back 6 months later, 85 pounds later.
Wow.
And I came back 1 year later, 115 pounds later. And I've been hovering, trying to maintain. I've been about a year and a half there trying to maintain. So really, that was the kick in the pants I needed. Fortunately, I didn't do any long-term damage as far as I know. Um, I, I just went in a few months ago for my annual physical, and my numbers are perfect. I've been off all medicine now. I take a statin just as a preventative, but I've been off everything now for quite a while. And my doctor said, I don't take people off anything once I put them on. And he goes, but you're the poster child, so you're good. So I take a multivitamin and I take a statin, and that's it. I feel great. I still don't eat sugar. I don't drink soda. I don't eat candy. I'm very careful about what I eat and snacking and stuff like that. I'm trying to be healthy. Not only that, I'm trying to kind of bring that to the people around me. I don't preach it. I'm not a Bible thumper in any way, but I want, if you can learn from other people's mistakes, um, I'm hoping I can help people around me learn from the things I did wrong, because I have friends that you get telling your story and they're like, yeah, I take metformin and I have vision problem and I have neuropathy and I have this and I have that, and it's too late for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I appreciate you sharing your story and being vulnerable to, because I think that that's the point, right? It's like, how can people learn from our past experiences so that they don't have to be in a doctor's office where someone says, hey, like, you're going to die. I think that it's a testament to the why. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I truly believe that if your why is strong enough, then the what and the how becomes easier and more attainable. And for someone to look at you and say, you're not going to be around for your family, you're not going to be around for your kids and your grandkids. Was that why for you to be like, give me 6 months? Like I'm going to be here. I'm going to make it happen. And I always encourage before anything like that happens, especially for the younger people who feel good and maybe feel like they don't need it yet, to have that deep why that is driving you so that you can have the longest life and retirement possible. But I do think if the why is strong enough, then the what and the how becomes possible. I'm so happy that you had someone looking out for you too. And I think that's a testament to what we said before. Like now, because someone looked out for you, like you are very cognizant of looking out for everyone else around you too. And to have someone grab your shoulders, and say, dude, you look like shit. Like you need to go and take care of yourself, I think is, good on them to look out for you. And now you're doing the same for everybody else.
Well, and the funny thing about that, the guy grabbing my shoulders was somebody I was paying to take guitar lessons from. It wasn't a friend or a family member. It wasn't somebody I see every day. In fact,
Yeah.
we talked about bosses and leaders, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I had one of my direct supervisors. I had just lost 85 pounds in 6 months, and there not one bit of acknowledgement. And I wasn't looking for acknowledgement, but he sat down with me one day over another issue, and I said, I go, sir, I figured out my value to you. And he said, what? I said, I just lost 85 pounds in 6 months. I said I went from like a size 44 pants to a 34 pants. I had
Mhm.
to get all new uniforms. I still I have to get new stuff. I said I if one of my troopers or one of my friends had lost that much weight in that short amount of time, what kind of person would I be if I didn't ask them if they were okay?
Yeah.
I don't, and I didn't get a single acknowledgement from you or any other one of my bosses. So I completely know my value to you, and I'm never going to do that to somebody else.
Yeah. I think that we can arguably learn more what not to do from people than what to do sometimes. And for
Yeah.
anyone who's listening, it's the importance of looking out for each other. It's so important to look out for
Yep.
each other. I wanted
Absolutely.
I wanted to touch base on one thing that you said, and you said that you saw how people were dealing with things, or excuse me, you said that you were dealing with things in not the best way, that certain incidents stuck with you and that you weren't dealing with them in the best way. How are you seeing people deal with the traumatic events and the incidents that they're experiencing? How are people managing that or dealing with that?
I think it's a lot better today.
Yeah.
First of all, I think the conversation has come around to um, being okay to talk about that. So I think across the board, it's better today. And I've told people it takes a stronger person to get help than not to get help. It takes more strength to reach out and admit you need help than to just suck it down. Sucking it down is the easy way out. It's stuffing it. It's the easy way out, and it's harder to do what you need to do for yourself. So I do see people dealing with it better because I think it's become more culturally acceptable in this line of work. If if somebody found out you were talking to our EAP employee assistance program, if they found out about that, or if they found out you were having trouble or whatever, then you're ostracized, or could you be trusted, or could you be counted on for when you need it to be? And I don't think that's institutionally as bad as it used to be. I think we're much better about admitting it, and I think it took losing a lot of people. It took losing a lot of friends to suicide and a lot of coworkers to suicide and to alcoholism and to medical issues and to realize you have to do something about it. And I think it's every one of our responsibilities to try to recognize that. And I don't mean prying in people's lives or whatever, but if you see patterns that aren't right, if you see them acting not right, it's okay to ask people. They can tell you to buzz off, but it's okay to ask people and it's okay to offer to help.
I'm so happy that you said that not dealing with it is the easy way, because I completely agree. And still to this day, I can't comprehend the thought process. I understand it. I'll say I understand it, but it's interesting to me that getting help, talking to people, processing the things that you've been through, the things that take a lot of hard work and effort are still, and maybe not with everyone, but I still see it, are perceived as weaknesses when it takes an incredible amount of strength to ask for help and to seek the resources and to process those things. Like that to me is the strength and the courage. The easy way out, like that's the weakness. That's it. Like you said, it's easy to drink it away. It's easy to avoid or to numb or to escape, and to let those things have control over you. But historically, that was being the tough guy, or girl. Like I'm tough. It's not affecting me. I'm just gonna go drink. I'm fine. Everything's fine. That was perceived as the strength, whereas the other stuff was perceived as the weakness. But I think it's completely opposite. And I do agree that I think things are starting to change. And I hope that one day that script will be flipped upside down and people will understand that the wellness side of things is the strength and the courage.
I agree, and I truly hope so too.
You said that there are a lot of bosses and not a lot of leaders. What did you mean by that?
So I guess to go back just a little bit on something you said a few minutes ago um, about leadership and learning. Sometimes you can learn what not to do from people. Uh,
Yeah.
in my experience, again, in a very big agency like the state police, there's a lot of people that are really good at moving nuts and bolts around and managing things, which is it's a big machine, and that machine has to be kept moving. So we have people that are really good at managing things. Well, people aren't things, and it's really it's really hard. It's not hard for me. It's hard for some people to differentiate between people and things, and we can't treat people the way we treat things.
Yeah.
Um, we have a job to do, and it's very important that our job is done properly and that it's done professionally, and the way that whatever institution you work for, that vision is carried out the way it's supposed to be. That's a given. It's how do we get our people to buy into things? How do we get our people to do what we need them to do? How do we get our people to represent us properly and whatever without treating them like things? And haven't had a lot of supervisors in my career that got that. And I don't know if I'm a good supervisor or not. I don't. I know that I know what turned me off and I know what shut me down as a subordinate. And I've sworn never to do that to people. I know what worked for me and I know what made me feel valued. Like I just said about my former boss that, never acknowledged me losing 85 pounds. And I literally told him, I understand my value to you now. And I don't ever want a subordinate of mine to feel that way. Um, there were days where I pulled into the parking lot in my troop car and I had a pit in my stomach and I sat in the parking lot, um, not wanting to get out of the car and walk in that building. I could handle the biggest, meanest, baddest drunk lumberjack that wanted to fight me under any circumstances, and I would handle that person with confidence. Um, I didn't want to walk in the door of my own station that's supposed to be my haven
Yeah.
because I didn't want to deal with the bullshit. I didn't want to deal with the not feeling valued and not feeling like you were part of something, like you were put down all the time. And I saw that happen to a lot of good troopers that ended up retiring, transferring because they just got beat down by bosses. So when I say the difference between a boss and a leader, a boss, there's a lot of bosses, and you get elevated to a position where you're a boss and you move things, you move nuts and bolts around, and then there's leaders that have a, a place where people want to come to work, where people feel like they're valued, where they feel like they're safe there, where they feel like they can talk there, where they feel like their opinion counts there. Everybody knows it works for me that, and I joke with them. I like to think I got a great sense of humor, and they'll tell me their opinion, and I'll be like, duly noted. This is the way we're going to do things, but you don't do it in a way where you're like, that's really stupid. Shut up and go do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Um, I had a subordinate one time that was upset because he had actually had to shoot somebody once, and his backup was a long way away. And I had I was a new station commander, and I got to the station, and I was assigned brand new troopers that were going to be assigned to me. And he came to me and basically wanted to dictate where these troopers were going to be assigned and what platoon they were going to be on and where they're going to be. And I said, hey, I got this figured out. I figured out where they're going to be most effective and where it's going to help us the most. And he started in on, this. And I said, look, I appreciate your opinion and it does mean a lot to me. You worked in this station longer than I have. You know these things and these are all important to me. I said, but look down at the floor. And he looked at the floor. I said, you see those tiles around you? And he said, yes. I said, you're responsible for that area around you that you could see. And he said, yes. And I said, I'm responsible for the whole building, all the tiles in every room in this building and everything outside of this building. I said, this is my responsibility. And I said, you have to look at I'm looking at the world through a different lens than you. Um, and a lot of people, you've probably heard it, people change when they get promoted. And I've always said you don't have to change who you are. You never have to change your values. But you do change. People, you have a different vision, a different perspective on what your mission is. And now it's not just me, I'm going out on patrol and I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's all right, my people are going out on patrol. We have to keep them safe. We have to do this. We have to do that. So I explained to him that your opinion is valuable, and I understand where you're coming from. Um, we have to do it this way, and here's why.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a I'm shutting you down and go do your thing. It was, hey, I understand, I appreciate that. And that's just one instance where, I try really hard to my office door right now is closed. And I put a post-it note on it saying I'm on a conference call. My office door is never closed. Even when I'm not here, I leave my door unlocked.
Mm.
My phone is never off. I tell my cops that if you need me, the only time I'm not going to answer the phone is if I'm on my motorcycle. And I go, if you call me, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it ring on my dashboard and hang up. If I don't answer, hang up, call me back. Because if you call me back a second time, I know you need something right now. I will pull over and answer. If not, I'll call you as soon as I stop at some point.
Yeah.
So if I'm on my bike or if I'm literally on stage playing in my band, there's only because I don't even have my phone with me, but I want my people to know that I'm accessible. And as a sergeant in state police and as the chief here, um, I want my people to know that they're not alone. That if they need something, that they have me as a resource, regardless.
Yeah. That statement that you said that people aren't things, I think is so powerful. And I hope that anyone who's listening really took that to heart because you're right. People on a human level, people matter, right? And you want to make sure that they feel valued and supported and respected. As an organization, people are your greatest asset. And the people who are showing up for you every single day are doing, in my opinion, one of the hardest, if not the hardest career in the world. Like
Yeah,
you see things that people aren't designed to see, and you see it a lot. And so people are not going to show up and do the best job that they possibly can for you and their community if they don't feel valued and respected and supported. And so I really appreciate you saying that, hey, like, I never want my people to feel how I felt. And I'm going to make a conscious effort to make sure that that happens. And, you obviously listed out some of the things that you do. And I'm hoping that anyone who's in leadership can take heart to that. And anyone who's younger in their career who wants to be in leadership, to take those notes from you and try to implement that, once they do promote. I know you said that you had this moment multiple times where you didn't want to walk into the station, that you didn't want to be there. And I know when we talked offline that you said you've made a really conscious effort to make the department a place where people want to be. And, one of the things that I've learned through these conversations is that you can't control what happens out on the streets. You can't control the types of calls you get, the people you encounter, but you can control what happens within the organization. And so, can you maybe explain a little bit about, why that physical environment within the organization matters? Maybe some of the things I know you said keeping your door open, checking in on people, but how you've seen that impact morale and performance. I would imagine that if people are happier internally, that they're going to be doing a better job out in the community.
sure. Yep, just the physical place here. This place had been kind of neglected for probably the better part of a decade. And when I came here, just my office, there were three desks in this small office, and there were boxes and papers and there were things. There were so many things in this office that the person running the place had shut the door and moved out into the patrol room. And then he um, cluttered up one desk and filled that up and went to another desk and filled that up and went to another desk and filled that up. and the place had really been neglected. So I spent um, a long time, months. I mean, I painted in there. I literally took everything out, got rid of all the stacks of papers. I still have, I have boxes, and I take a box out and I'll go through things. When I have a few minutes, just start going through and trying to get rid of stuff and organize stuff. So I built a, it's a small station. It's actually a very nice station, but it's not a huge station. And I'm really concerned with officer safety. And one of the things here is our door to the public comes straight to the into the station. Um, which officer safety wise is just awful. So I got with the village, and it cost very little money. And I built a very small vestibule. So people walk in the main door, and there's a window with a little separation underneath it. And I have a buzzer there. And it's something minor, but now my officers here feel more secure.
Yeah.
If there's a prisoner in here, they had one door to get out of. They just crashed through this one door, they were out. Now they have to go around. They have to go through a door, around a corner, back out another door. At least it gives us an opportunity. So brighten the place up. What needs to be fixed? Went and got a TV, hung it on the wall with our CAD on there. So if you're in the patrol room, you can see everything that's going on in the county right in front of you. We have radios now throughout the station, so wherever you are, you can hear it. Like I said, brightened it up, dusted, clean, swept the floors. I put down the new flooring in the office here to just make it brighter and nicer. Painted the walls. I've lights in here. It's funny, at my old state police barracks, it was a pretty big station, very big station. And my first Christmas there, it was always kind of my thing. When I made sergeant and went down to Albany headquarters, I would decorate my office. I had a huge office, and it was one of the biggest offices in the building, but nobody wanted it because it was in the middle of the building and there were no windows. So I decorated it like crazy for different holidays. And I've never been like a wicked festive person, but I was like, got to do something here. So um, when I got to my last station at Christmas time, I put up blue lights around inside the station for Christmas lights. And one of the troopers came to me and they're like, "This is really nice. Can we decorate?" I'm like, "What do you mean, can you decorate?" "Well, we've never been allowed to decorate for Christmas." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" I go, "You better decorate. I'm telling you right now." I came in, I went on pass. I had a couple of days off. I came back. They had gone and they used those command strips. There was a stocking for every person at the station with their name on it. There were ornaments that somebody had handmade. There was a tree up. There were different lights up around the station. Each stocking had little things in it. And it was awesome. I came in one day and there was a little gift wrap box on my desk, and I was like, "How nice! What a nice thing they gave me they gave me a present." And I opened it up, and my bosses were the zone office, zone headquarters. And there was always a little bit of consternation there between my station and zone because I just didn't like the way they sometimes treated our people. And that really bothered me. So I spent a lot of effort standing up for my people. And I came in and here's this little gift. And I'm like, "Oh, how nice. The guy's got me something." And I looked at the card and it said from zone. And I opened it up and it was a box of coal. One of the best presents I've ever gotten. It was my troopers being funny.
Yeah.
Um, so after Christmas, I took the lights down and they came in and said, "Hey, Sarge, we really like those lights. Can we leave them up?" And I was like, "Well, they're Christmas lights. They look kind of goofy." Well, I went and bought like 1,000 feet of LED light strips, and I lined the entire patrol room and the hallways with blue LEDs. And it was like the goofiest little thing, but the troopers loved it. At night, when they were doing, each station has to do relays with the zone headquarters, and that's how our mail and stuff gets moved around. And I'd come out of my office, and there'd be 3 different stations worth of troopers in there hanging out and talking at night. Because it was a cool place for them to go and they liked it. No lights on, just the blue lights and stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I like to do. Make it brighter, make it something with that when you come in, you're up. You're not down. It's not dingy. It's not dirty. I dust. I vacuum. My old station, I had 20 some troopers working for me, and I'd come to work, and I'm not OCD, but I always felt like we need to take pride in our place. And I would come to work. I'd get the vacuum out and start vacuuming, and a trooper would run up. "No, I got it. I got it." I'm like, "Look, dude, if you wanted to do it, you'd have done it before. I got it. It's fine. And I do it. But the next day I come in and it would be vacuum because they're like, oh, we don't want Sarge to vacuum. But it was like, I did it. And I never wanted any credit for it. It's just, that's how I felt our place should be. You
Yeah.
know, I went around the outside of the station. The seals on the state seal on the doors hadn't been replaced in 25 years, and they were cracked and discolored. And I went one night on the midnight shift and I brought my razor blade in. I took them all off. I put brand new seals up. I painted around different things. I put LED lighting on the outside of our building over the entrance so that we could change with the holidays, change the color. And they notice that, and they get a little bit of spring in their step, and they stand up a little bit straighter because they're proud to be there. And that's what I want. I want it to be a place. And I told my troopers and my police officers here, I meet with them individually at least every couple of months, and I tell them, I want this to be a place you want to be. I want you to get your car to come to work and be happy that you're coming to work, not dragging yourself to work. And there's times when we're all going to drag ourselves to work, but I want this to be a place where you're comfortable.
And I think it goes back to what you said before about family, and you saying that like you care about them just like you do your family. And to me, that sounds like you've created an environment that feels that way, that you guys can decorate for the holidays and, they're giving you gifts that are humorous. Like that to me feels like a culture of family. And I do think your environment matters. And I also think that small things can go a long way. So I appreciate you sharing that because I do think that there are a lot of people who I talk with across the country who have small organizations that feel like they don't have the resources to be able to do anything, And so there's this mentality of like, well, we can't do this, so we just don't. And I think the more we can share those ideas of like, hey, like these are small things that you can do to create an environment internally where people are happier to be there. Not saying that they're happy all the time, but they're happier to be there. They, like you said, stand up straighter. I like that you said that little spring in your step. There are things that everyone can do. And I think that small things do go a long way, especially in the context of wellness. I have one final question for you. And this can be in the context of wellness or it can be in the context of leadership. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who's maybe earlier in their career? Something that you wish you would have known earlier or something that's helped you along the way?
A couple of things. One silly thing that I tell all my new troopers, and in the tops here is I always meet with, I have like a 3-page outline. And I always meet with my new people because I tell them I want to know who you are and what your expectations are. And I want you to know what I am and what my expectations are. And it's not fair to either one of us. And we're both going to get frustrated if we don't understand that completely. Um, and I always tell them on day one, you're as much of a police officer as the next person here. You own this place as much as the next person here. But one thing I always tell them is take the picture. Get a picture of you standing next to that police car. Because when you're going to look one day and you're going to be 59 and gray, and you're going to wish you had that picture from when you first started out and you had all your hair and you were a little bit lighter and smile a little bit bigger. So take the picture and then just be a police officer for a while. We have a lot of people come on this job that the day they walk in the door, they're like, I want to be CSI, or I want to be an investigator. I want to be this. I want to be that. Be a cop for a while, figure yourself out, figure out how to handle people and how to handle yourself, and then decide what you want to do after that. But um, be a police officer. Um, Big thing is take care of each other. Uh, Take ownership of yourself and your station. I tell all my people, you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. Um, you're going to make mistakes. The true judge of somebody's character is how they deal with those mistakes.
Mm.
And don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and treat people the way you want to be treated or like you want your mom to be treated. So as far as wellness and health, um, don't wait for somebody to put their hands on their shoulders. You should. I tell anybody I've ever trained, when I teach drug recognition expert classes in the senior DRE in the state of New York, and I've taught for a long time. And I always tell my people that you need to look in the mirror and like and respect the person that's looking back at you.
Mm.
Um, People don't do that. And if you look in the mirror and you can't look in that person's eyes, and there's a lot of people that can't, and there's been times in my life when I could, um, you need to maybe have a reckoning with that person and figure out what you need.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your time so much.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Of course. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.